debuffing. So, oh, cross is gone. I'll tell him later. Anyway,
Flip it.
all right, yeah. So we're gonna go backtrack a little bit because we actually skipped this one to begin with. This was actually the one that was right after the Horling, uh, fighter.
Oh, I
Oh no,
love
Horling Ranger. But no, we're gonna tackle the
Oh,
what is it called?
Sling-
The Sling Lash Conclave Ranger, otherwise known as the Latex Ranger.
Oh, I love
What
this
page?
ranger.
Okay, yeah.
What page?
Okay,
Page
hey,
141.
yay. Also, if I may talk about this
Oh yeah.
class,
Mhm.
this ranger is so. This ranger, like how Cross was saying, is with the sublime slithering, is absolutely amazing. It This class is absolutely outstanding when it comes to the concept that it's talking about. A lot of rangers love the fact that they have a companion with them. Rangers and beast companions go hand in hand. That's why Beastmaster Ranger was one of the originals. It's so great. But this one takes it a step further where you have basically bonded with an ooze.
It looks like it's made out of like latex or something.
Well,
Yeah, it's a
that's the kink, Neffy. It's a Latex Ranger.
yeah,
Mm.
it's a latex ooze. And what makes that so fascinating is that it's not just a companion. Basically, uh well, first of all, when you form the bond with your ooze, its essence becomes infused into an object of your choosing, no bigger than a foot in any dimension. It most commonly takes the form of a flask. So it's basically your jar of latex. But uh, for example, it doesn't have to be that. It could be your shirt. You could just have your being on you. You could have a shitload of latex on you. But what makes it fascinating is that it has a certain amount of HP, and you can use those HP to turn it into ammunition. So you're shooting enemies with pieces of your companion, and you're basically shooting laser at them. Can do a splatter, which is basically just uh well, basically here's a light. Here's a light source for you, and if it hits an enemy, good luck being invisible, you dumb fuck. And then there's the hobbling wrap, which grapples people with, like for example, the unlucky fellow in the image.
which
Then there's
we'll show you case one more time.
Then there's gagging glob, like that unfortunate individual in the image who is also gagged.
Again, we'll show that image one more time.
And then there's restraining shot, which does damage and restrains them entirely, like the unfortunate.
I'm just gonna roll. I'm just gonna scroll right back up to the image. I know we're joking a little bit, but it's really not that of. I would say it's really not that much of a really complicated class. It's simple in the fact that it's using ooze and it's restraining stuff, and unlike the last ranger, this one seems like it's meant to be more of a debuffing class that does ranged attacks. Also, I hate to say it, this reminds me of Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
I hate that you're right.
Nice.
Yeah. Also,
Exploding nuts.
God fucking damn
I have an exploding nut of latex.
it. That's crazy.
I shoot out latex, and I have nuts.
That's nuts.
Yeah. But what makes it so fascinating is that this ooze is, well, basically the ooze. If I can take a look here, Your ooze regains 1d8 HP. That's great and all, but how much HP? Oh, I need to look at the latex ooze stat block to determine the amount of HP. But anyways, I'm sure it has more than 10 HP,
Mm-hmm.
and you you're using parts of that creature to uh basically like do additional effects, but it has an instant balancing effect where if it runs out of HP, it evaporates into nothingness. All of it. So if you overdo it, you have nothing. So sure, you can restrain right off the bat, which is a second level spell. Sure, you can also basically take away speech. You could also grapple. You could make it so uh make it so there's dim light. But if you overdo it with any of that, you're done. You are done for the fight. You basically have to waste the next long rest getting your buddy back and apologizing to your latex and letting it have its way with.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know what to say on that one, but no, like I kind of get that because it looks like it's a risk reward system that we don't normally see in classes because you have to balance using your globby friend who can die, and I'm guessing you can't like throw a health potion at them to boost their HP back up. Maybe there's something you can do, but like it feels like you risk using a higher like restraining shot at level 10 and maybe running out of ammo, or maybe you'll have to like not use any glob shots, but your preferred weapon is a sling. So which by the way increases. Which by the way, with this thing, your range goes from 150 feet with a slingshot to 600 feet. I'm pretty sure you become Usopp at that point, and like you become Sniper King.
and you're just holding this
Snipering for that
sling.
ass.
You just have this sling, like everyone's like has like longbows and whatnot, and you're just standing there with your sling and going, and everyone's just going, don't you need, don't you want one of these? Nah, I'm good.
Ping, 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 ping. But let's see what
I was
else
gonna
is.
say, couldn't you like, if you like run out of ammo for your ooze, can you like find like little rocks around?
I would
No.
With ammo?
You're actually no, you're right. You could do rocks, but you don't get any extra latex abilities, which is what you
got it.
need.
And that's probably not a bad thing. Like, and honestly, just like let's say for example you do run out of ooze. Like, I would say that you would have to be pretty bad at managing the ooze HP pool for that to happen. But you do need some kind of backup ability, and at least being able to shoot like rocks or standard iron pellets or something is pretty good. And at 600 feet,
Random ass crystals on the ground.
I mean, don't laugh. That probably would help too.
Yeah.
Hey, what's this what's this small glowing thing that we probably need for a quest or whatnot? Anyways,
Okay, but
ammo.
random bullshit. Go.
Yeah, basically.
oh shit, my latex is gone. Random bullshit.
All right, but then like,
Throw my sling at you.
but then on top of that, it seems like what you trade off for is the fact that you're going to be using primarily slings, so they don't deal a whole lot of damage. But sling expertise at level hold on, sling expertise at level 7. You can score a crit on an 18 or 20. That is never a bad thing. Getting an extra slot that can land on a crit is nice. And on top of that, if you do hit with an attack, you can add your proficiency modifier when calculating weapon damage. I like that. Like, it's simple, but it's always a good thing.
If I may, really quickly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Garson, I hate to ruin one of your points, but this class makes the sling go from that's not a lot of damage to you're carrying a ranged scimitar because it goes the damage dice for these weapons is increased to 1d8. You are literally one die from having a double. a double ranged Eldritch Blast on you.
Oh my god, it does say that. It was like literally in the first goddamn. Okay, I take that back. No, no. Now you're. This is just the Usopp class. This is like the Usopp class if instead of pop greens he had oozes. Which, fucking, if we do the campaign, I'm fucking probably gonna. I might do this, and I might just go around pretending to be Usopp, and you all cannot stop me. Oh my god! And then I read latex armor, and he just gets observation hockey.
Yeah.
You are protected from bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage. You gain blind sight, hockey, and then you up to 60 feet, Usopp hockey. It's just, and on top, but like, okay, but one thing I am looking at, but if you do run the armor, there is a chance that you will also receive you will lose your oozling, because it looks like they will take the hits from you, and while you may be protected, it is temporary hit points, and then it looks like the ooze would drop down to 0, which is a little risky. And that's my best way to wrap it up on this. I feel like this is a really good class because of how long range you can be, but you have to manage that ooze meter, and that's not always a good thing. And sometimes that's not always a good thing, because players who have too much to micromanage might sometimes forget that they drain their ooze, and then in the middle of a fight they're like, I'm out of oozes.
Oh, this is fascinating. I just took a look the HP for the ooze,
Mm-hmm.
and it has the Ranger variant. It has the bonded companion. The maximum HP of this creature is equal to its player companion's level multiplied by 10.
Wait, what?
Oh my god.
By 10?
So that means at level 1, if you can't do a restraining shot.
I was
And level
I was kind of waiting for someone to say something, because we were just silent there for like 3 seconds.
Oh,
And what makes this-
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And at level 3, when you get this, like at level 3, when you would actually like get this, like I know level 1 you can't do it, but whatever. At level 3, that's 30 HP alone. So if you do a restraining shot, whether if you miss that restraining shot, there's a third of that thing's HP gone.
Mm.
And it gets smaller, where it ends up with like at a level 20 being 200 HP. But at the same time, you're constantly chipping away at it. You're never at full health with this thing. You don't want it to be at full health because you're not using it then.
And that's actually a good point, because, like, okay, I think around like level 3 you would have access to like it's like spell slots. At early level, spell slots are like a very valuable commodity because of how powerful some of those spells can be, but the fact that you can't use them a whole lot. And this feels like the same thing, but substitute the spell slots for the latex ooze's HP, and some of the more like for example, gagging glob, that's 5. You could potentially silence someone with that, which is very good. Restraining shot at 10. You can only use that about 3 times before that thing dies. And luminous splatter, you have like a whole patch of a whole bag of like would-be pellets. So that's not bad. It's actually pretty good, but you're right. The fact is at those low levels, you do run the risk of this thing dying quite a bit if you are not managing that health pool.
And
Yeah.
also Garson, here's the thing. You don't have 3 shots. You have 2, because when it hits 0, it all goes away.
So basically you're saying, like, even if I cast this, it'll just like disappear again. Does it give you any indication of how long it takes to get the ooze back?
You may create a new body for your ooze by focusing on its ooze haven during a long rest.
Oh, that is not good. That is not good. Long rest is, yeah.
Similarly, you may restore. So this is if you don't kill it. Restore your ooze companion HP by focusing on it during a short rest. When you do, spend any number and level of spell slots. Your ooze regains 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier hit points for every level of spell slot spent. That's obviously for the short rest, but as a ranger, those spells are tough to come by.
Yeah. So the question
And
is, are you going to use the spell slots to regenerate your ooze and focus more on the oozy ammunition side of the ranger, or are you going to have your ranger do more support magic for the party? It's a tough call.
And if the ooze haven is destroyed, which is like your latex bottle and whatever, you may create another by concentrating on both a new object and your ooze for 1 hour. You have to spend an hour. And if both your ooze and the ooze haven are destroyed, so if you're really fucked, you have to spend 8 hours.
So that means no long rest, no benefits from resting. You can't do anything. Oh man, that is a big downside for 8 hours. And it has to be concentration for those 8 hours. You can't just like let time pass.
Nope, you have to be committed to doing that. You still get the benefits, like you still obviously, like if you're doing just that one thing, you're obviously fine, but you can't do anything else. Which mechanically you're like, oh well, okay, fine, whatever. But then you're thinking, from D&D's just not just its mechanics, it's role play. It's a role playing game. You're taking yourself out of the story. From a storytelling perspective, and a long rest, that is a lot of story that you could not be part of. That's character growth right there.
All right, so let's look at the other two abilities real quick, and then we'll move on to the next class. Glossbite Lashes.
There's one ability that you forgot.
What? I already talked about the armor.
Sling expertise.
I mentioned that.
Did you mention the critical hit on an unmodified 19 or 20?
Yes.
Cool. Great. Moving on.
Okay. Anyway. Moving on. I distinctly remember mentioning that that having an additional point where you can hit a crit is never a bad thing. Anyway, so moving on.
That's fair. You can edit me getting bonked in the head with a hammer.
I'll do. You know what? I will. But anyway. But I'll say so.
Holding the hammer.
Sure. Why not, Neffy? Anyway.
Yay.
So. Glossbite Lashes, you can it basically is the reverse of the armor ability, where if you're not wearing the latex armor, the ooze can basically, within 5 feet of you, it can subtract 10 hit points from the ooze to form ooze whips that are attached to your forearms. And basically, instead of where it's like where the armor would protect you, the lashes then give you a temporary additional melee damage ability, which that's... Okay, look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't like that. I don't. Because, and this is my honest take on this, I don't like melee bonuses to characters. I never have. And the reason I don't like them is because if you're making a ranged class and you give them the ability to do melee damage, they're not going to be as good, and this is taking away ooze points that could potentially go to something that isn't going to really, like, help the party, if that makes sense. At least with the armor, I feel like that's okay because it's protecting you if someone gets in melee range to you. But if someone gets in melee range to you and you said, I'm going to get my ooze whippy arms out and I'm going to whip them, there's a good chance that you're not going to hit them. And even if you do, let's see what you get. You can add 1 pain to that creature, which is fine. Or you can deal 1d6 slashing damage. That's yeah.
But here's the thing that I really like about this. I personally am a huge fan of this because this is the ranger going, I've had enough of your bullshit getting close to me. And at the ends of the and this is not only that, but the ooze can also be made into rudimentary grappling hooks that can snag small objects for you, and can be made adhesive too. And the weapons are attached to you and as such, you can't be disarmed from them. And sure, your hands are otherwise occupied, but you can still satisfy the somatic components for casting spells while you're wielding them. So, this is basically just an extra defense because you're like, okay, I'm not getting pot shots anymore. I'm having some asshole right in front of me that I need to deal with because I get disadvantage at melee range. And that is something that I genuinely love, especially how you're inflicting pain. So you could basically be like, okay, if shit goes down, I'm going to be great at this.
I guess. Neko, do you have anything to add about the ooze?
Oop, I think she may have stepped away.
Okay, well, in the meantime. And then the last ability is Sanity Shield, which basically is you subtract 10 hit points. In short term, it is used to basically give you an additional reroll on saving throws at the cost of 10 HP of your companion's health points. I don't know how I feel about that. This is a pretty lackluster capstone ability. I feel like it's more meant to be like a utility ability, but this does not feel like it should be the last ability of the subclass. This feels like this should be around level 5 because you're giving up a lot for not enough.
Actually, you kind of missed half of it. When you do so, when you subtract those 10 hit points, you not only get that reroll, but you can add 2 to the result. In addition to any other bonuses you have, you get a +2 to your roll.
And that's a good bonus. I don't argue that. What I do argue is that this is a 15th level ability. By the time that you get this, your proficiency is probably up to +6. I would need to double check to be sure. So you will have a built, so you just by naturally not, by the very nature of not dying for so long, you've gained the ability to survive against a lot of different saving throws. Maybe you have one bad skill you're not good at, and you probably won't be doing well against that saving throw, but I don't see this as a 15th level ability. I see this as a level 5 ability. You can keep the text exactly as it is, but this is a very, very lackluster capstone, because to get to level 15, you're telling me all I get is a reroll on my saving throw and a 2 to the bonus? Nuh-uh. No. This is a bad capstone ability.
I personally am underwhelmed by it, but I'm not disappointed, if that makes sense.
How about we try testing it out? Like, see how it would work.
Yeah, this feels...
We should.
This genuinely... the way that I'm seeing it is that this feels like one of two things. One, they either did their testing, and when we go into it, it's going to feel like, oh, thank goodness I have this. Or two, it is going to be underwhelming, but it's still going to be useful. It's going to be one of those two things, and I'm desperately hoping it's the former.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those were the Rangers. We covered all of those ones, including the Horrorling from last week. We talked about the Rogue's first version of it. I don't know if we can show the Needleplay Rogue or the Stitcher Rogue. No, we can't.
But can I talk about it?
Stuff is running down.
Oh, but can I talk about the abilities and whatnot, because I am over here drooling.
You are into that shit, yeah.
All right. You can talk about it. I mean, we were going to talk about it regardless, but like we just can't show the artwork, obviously for good reasons. We are not. Ooh. We are not smart enough to get away with showing the artwork again.
Oh, that.
Okay. Chitter, I'm just gonna let you know, if you moan one more time, we're gonna have to put an NC-17 rating on the video, so you have to be very careful about it. You get one more moan within 5 minutes, okay? Just letting you know.
After 5 minutes, checking the clock now. Got it.
Okay, good. Anyway, so the Stitcher Rogue. This one, yeah. So I know nothing about the kink. I know even less about what the class does. So I'm gonna be the smart guy. I'm gonna be the smart host. Let's pass it on to Chitter. Chitter, what does this class do?
Well, first of all, this class hits buttons I didn't realize I still had. But anyways,
Like most.
but this class has to do with needle play. And the needle play is a very unique kink. It goes in between both knife play and blood play. And
Which we'll get to
and
after this one.
yeah. But for those who don't know, it's very easily and obvious what those are by the very name. Some might be difficult to tell what it is. Those not so much. But it's very much again, and I'm noticing a theme with my kinks, is that it's this feeling of helplessness and vulnerability with a needle that enacts that physical pain. But to be quite honest, unless you really fuck it up, which with other kinks as well, like knife play and blood play, I have the same risk in play.
Mhm.
There's no real permanent damage. Like, sure, you're poking a needle into someone's skin, but there's no permanent damage. You would have to treat it. You would have to go in such a way that you're actively like trying to hurt this person. You're like the artwork is. Look at how many there like there
Which we
are.
can't show. We can't show the artwork.
Yeah, but like for example, the artwork in question, and again, not showing it, but I'm just gonna count really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's in between 18 to 20 needles holding that person up. So
Jesus.
So again, it comes down to if you are actively trying to hurt and disable this person, needle play becomes dangerous. And that is one of the reasons why I absolutely love the play in general. And it's very much a safe form of pain play that Cross is the exact opposite of me. I personally love pain, and this is one of my favorites. So now going to the class, now that I've done gushing about a kink of mine,
Mm-hmm.
the Stitcher starts with needle proficiency. So you become proficient with an item called Seal Silk Needles, which is basically a fancy word for this is a cool pointy thing. And then you can use threading art to basically go, I'm going to fuck up your world. And your thread DC is 8 plus your proficiency plus your dex, which again makes sense for a rogue because rogues are dexterous as hell.
True.
So when you hit with an attack using steel silk needles, which I believe is like what is it? Just bear with me here for a moment because I do think that it is some kind of item. It should be like a dagger or something. Steel.
Infinidagger.
The Infinidagger. It's called Steel Silk Needle. So yeah, we're just gonna bottom here. 187. Sorry, I'm just also checking something.
We can't show any more.
Yeah.
We would scroll down and show more of the class while this was going on, but if I go any further, I'm breaking TOS within 15 seconds, and I already kind of pushed the envelope today by showing the GIMP suit. So
Yeah. Let's not test. Let's
Yeah.
not test again. A silk needle is a 20 gold 1d4 piercing weapon, and it is a specialist weapon for this class, and it has the finesse and light properties. So when you attack with your basically your daggers, if the attack hits, the target is considered threaded. So you've basically gone in and out. And against objects, you may thread the target as an action instead. When you thread the target, you may thread link it to a previously threaded target within 60 feet. A creature may only be thread linked to a single other creature at a time. Threads this way are nearly invisible. And then once you've basically done your person sewing, you can then, as a bonus action, pull two of them together, and then if they collide into each other, or well, the targets move together, or one moves to the other, and both suffer 2d6 bludgeoning damage per 5 feet traveled.
Oh.
If one of the targets is considered by the GM to be immovable, the other target becomes restrained to the immovable object. If both targets are creatures, the smaller creature moves with the larger creature and may not move away while they're both linked. And if both creatures are the same size, they must move together and both move at half speed. If both targets are considered immovable, both targets suffer 2d6 piercing damage as the threads pull out and break. And of course, a creature may break a thread link by using an action to make a strength saving throw, because that's only fair. If one target breaks their thread link, both targets are no longer considered to be thread linked, so you need to be careful and keep an eye on that. And your thread DC is your 8 plus your proficiency modifier plus your dex modifier. But oh my goodness, that is basically going, yeah, I'm going to do a human weave of art today. Chink!
Oh.
And by the way,
And-
I scrolled down a little bit more just because I wanted to see what was working on it, and I gotta admit, like, it seems like this class, it features a lot of stuff that's really good for like the stitching theme to it, but the capstone ability, when we get to that, which I can't show, I can't show it because right next to it is a sexy moth girl
Ooh.
covered in blood, so I can't show that one. So damn, but I like it. I like but I do like the theming is what I'm trying to get across. The theming of this is like stitching, fate control, puppeteering. So for those of you who don't know, it's a cool ability it's a cool concept in D&D to have like the ability to control things just like with like string and stuff. I know it's in a lot of anime we've seen that.
Yeah.
So it's a great theme. Cheater, I'm going to throw it back to you to continue talking.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is that it's pulling you by your strings. And going on to that with like level 9 feature, so once you've gotten really good at binding people together, you then have cinched fate, which your threads bind the futures of creatures that are tied to them. When you deal damage to a creature that is thread linked to another creature, the creature that is not taking damage takes damage equal to half the amount you deal. So even if a creature is not moving, like it's a bigger creature to a smaller one, it still takes that damage.
Oh, wait, so my warbound effect that I've inflicted on all you guys.
Yes, basically.
Yeah. And then there's puppeteering strings, which is you can channel your will into creatures bound by your steel silk thread to make them your puppet for a short time. As an action, you may touch a creature threaded by you to cast, and this is no joke, Dominate Monster. That's not dominate person. Dominate monster is everything.
Wow. I don't even like, isn't like dominate monster usually reserved for like a 7th level spell?
Yeah. The caveat here for this is when you do so, the saving throw DC is equal to your thread DC, and the spell ends at the end of your next turn. However, you can also use this feature a number of times equal to your dex mod.
Okay, that's a bit broken because let's say you are so the max you can get for a dex modifier is a +5 at rank 20. That's not unheard of for a rogue to get when you combined like attribute bonuses from leveling up, because you're going to be at level 13, you hit at least 3 of those. you may get really, depending on how your DM has the game set up, they can probably point by a massive amount of dexterity to start off with. So like +5 times that you may be able to dominate some monster to have them attack a group of enemies. That's broken. I really wish I could show this, but I can't because of the moth monster woman.
However, to be
My
fair,
bad.
it's not saying that you get it automatically. You can just cast it, meaning that they have to succeed on a wisdom saving throw. So, to be fair, it's not an automatic success. And sure, the saving throw DC is equal to your thread DC, but also the normal dominate monsters up to an hour. This one is for basically at the end of your next turn it goes away.
Oh, okay, but you know what? That's fine because, like I said, 7th level magic is usually capped at maybe 1 or 2 spell slots for the classes that can cast it. So even though it may last for an hour, you could potentially run out of it before your next long rest. With this, yeah, you only get it for a turn, but sometimes a turn is all you need to make a losing situation into something really good. And you can cast this without wasting any spell slots by just having your dex modifier be high, which as a rogue you're going to want anyway. So I'm fine with that trade-off.
Yeah, it's so good. And then there's Living Needles, which is the 17th, which is one of the 17th level features, which is basically going, hi, my needles are alive now. An additional 10 feet to melee range.
Well, that's cool. Actually, no, it's 5 feet, by the way.
10 feet in total.
No, it says your melee range is extended by 5. Is there another 5 feet that comes in from another ability?
Melee in general?
Okay. I don't think needles.
Five
I don't
plus-
think needles. I don't think you can thrust your arm out for 5 feet of additional strength with a needle. But that's just me.
5 plus 5
Yeah.
equals 10.
It's simple
Okay.
math, Carson. I thought
Shut
you were
up.
good at this.
Shut up. Anyway, but that's fine. But like, let's be fair here. That's not the capstone ability I'm more interested in. I'm interested in a Stitch in Time because you get to cast fucking Time Stop. Are you shitting me?
Zawando!
Oh, no,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so you have learned to weave your thread through the essence of the world, gaining the ability to bring it to a halt momentarily. So you can cast the spell Time Stop, and then during the duration of the spell, you may use an action to thread a creature or object you are adjacent to without attacking them. And then once you're, let's see, how long is Time Stop really quickly?
I think it's
'Cause-
supposed to be like 1 round.
I'm just double checking really quickly.
Whoa, we got a raid. You and Kochi, thank you for the raid for 11 viewers. Thank you for joining. We are recording our Kinks and Cantrips podcast. So,
Hey.
so let me give
It
you.
Yeah.
was.
Hello, everyone. We are currently talking about the Needle
Needles.
Play Rogue, and we're just finishing off the capstone of that, which is Time Stop. Oh, Garson, it's not a turn. It's 1d4 plus 1 turns in a row.
Oh shit, that's very powerful.
Oh shit.
And here's the thing. So, during the duration of the spell, you may use an action to thread a creature or object you are adjacent to without attacking them. So that's potentially 5 creatures threaded together, and then you
Oh,
use the
damn.
bonus action to use the draw type feature on all of them.
Oh,
Wow. Wow.
And-
I don't know what to say.
terrifying.
And here's the thing. Or you might be going like, oh, well, that's only 2d6 bludgeoning damage per person. No, that's per person per 5 feet traveled.
And they could potentially travel up to what, 20 feet?
Um, do. Dense objects, creature. There doesn't seem to be a limit on distance.
Well, I'll say this. Regardless of how many feet they can travel, it's still a very powerful ability because time stop, even for free, because you aren't using a spell slot, that's like a 9th level spell that if you roll a 4 on the D4 plus 1, that's 5 turns that you can set up like a big damage bomb. And that's pretty good. I gotta say, I really do like the Stitcher rogue. Even it doesn't feel like a rogue; it feels like an arcane trickster. But boy, is it really good! And
It feels like the arcane trickster, but done properly.
Yeah.
fair point. So actually, I'm going to talk a lot about the next classes because we're now getting to the sorcerers.
Let's go.
And the one thing I absolutely love is sorcerers. Now, we can't show the artwork, obviously, so we're just going to show the bottom part of it, which is ink. For this all intents and purposes, this is ink. It is not blood. Ignore what this says. That's ink. Okay, we all in agreement here, folks? Okay, glad we are.
Ink.
Moving on. So let's talk about No.
If I may, Garson.
No. These are sorcerers. These are Garson's playthings. Me talk first. I want to talk about meta magic. Don't take this away from me.
I was just wanting to talk about the kink involved.
You have 15 seconds.
Time it.
This is
One.
this is basically the blood plague sorcerer, where basically this is play that should not be done when you have like anything other than a stable mind, because you are actively looking to harm yourself with blood like coming out of you. This can be done via the needles, as mentioned before, razor blades, biting, and licking or drinking the blood, which can be very, very unsafe, and you have to be extremely careful when you do this, can also be associated with this. And this is not something that I would ever recommend to someone who is new to this kind of play, because you don't know what your partner's blood potentially has in it. You just don't.
Mhm.
And unless you've spent a lot of time around them or are actively being really safe, especially when you get into your new frame of mind where you're like in that frenzy and you don't know your limits, this play is incredibly unsafe. So yes, the class is super cool, but I would only recommend doing this play with either an extremely like 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 look at this like you're looking through jobs that are potentially all scams. You need to find a dom who is extremely safe with this, and you need to be extremely careful. I'm sorry, I just had to state that because we've talked a lot about like, oh, this kink is really cool. This kink is really cool. This kink, I know I talked about needles before and like how excited I am about them, but blood play especially, you have to be safe. You
This
have
is-
to be.
Okay. And that's all great, and I do not want to take away that we do here on Forgotten Table Tales to promote the safest way to handle this. Remember, these are kinks that some of your partners may have, and we respect that. So we're not making fun of that. That being said,
Go ahead, Garson.
let's talk about meta magic. Okay.
Yay!
All right, so now I'm excited because for those of you who don't know, in my player days, the class I played the most of is Sorcerer. I played it a lot. Who's eating chips?
This is my first class that I played.
Right, which you never used the meta magic. Why did you never?
I did not. How did I not use the meta magic?
You were a wizard. You took the one thing that sorcerers can do above wizards, and you were like, no, I'm not gonna use this. Fuck it.
I was new, okay? I was a sprout, okay? Leave me
Okay, fair
alone.
enough. But let's talk about meta magic, because we're gonna have to talk about that before we go into talking about the blood artist sanguine features of the sorcerer. So, for this particular class, it does have a brand new meta magic. Induce Sepsis. That's fucking gross.
Oh, that's so
Confused?
good.
So let me
Confusion?
explain. So sepsis is basically a blood disease that you could potentially have in the real world. It happens
Oh.
it does happen. It's like a blood infection. So what the meta magic of this ability is that it essentially allows you to make your spells have the ability to induce sepsis on their on the target that you're attacking. Now you can't use it for all sorcerer magic in this class. You can only use it on the ability Start the Flow, Wet Works, Essence Drain, and Hemohex, which is basically the other capstone abilities, obviously. And you have to spend a sorcery point. Now, the other problem that sorcerers have is that they have to manage sorcery points for their meta magic. But the thing is that you could do a lot with that. So, for example, let's say that you had multiple enemies. You could, in theory, use a twinned meta magic ability to basically allow you to hit two of your enemies with a spell. So instead of for example, you have Firebolt, you can twin it so it hits two enemies. Then you can Scorch. Then you can use Quicken meta magic to make it so you can cast one of these abilities as a bonus action instead of a regular cantrip. It's very powerful to use meta magic successfully as a sorcerer. That's going to separate it. Sepsis, they have to, with Induced Sepsis, they have to succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or the ability Start the Flow, Wet Works, Essence Drain. We're going to go into those in a minute, but if they succeed on it, you can spend the meta magic point to make them reroll the saving throw. That's really good. Having the ability to force rerolls on opposing saving throws is always better than getting bonuses to saving throws, in my opinion. Saving throws can be life or death. Don't get that mistaken. I'm not saying they're not important. What I am saying is, if it's in a fight, you want to make sure you have a better option to make your opponent take the hit rather than have the opponent have you have it by having more bonuses. So let's go over the abilities per se.
And I will say this, it's balanced by the fact that it's a con saving throw. A lot of things have good con saves.
Right. So let's talk about Start the Flow. As a sorcerer of the blood of the hemomancy skill, which by the way, this is a hemomancer. It's using blood as its spell focusing is the main spell focus. I've wanted a hemomancer so bad. Ever since I played Vladimir on League of Legends, I love hemomancy as a spell art. Not so much as a kink, but like as a player, this is perfect, even though it is very difficult to talk about.
Well, I did find a mod on Baldur's Gate that allows you to have blood sorcery
You will share that with
a subclass.
You will share that with me later. Anyway, back to the topic.
It's like, you will give that to me. That's not an if.
Baldur's Gate.
So,
You can have
start
that as a mod.
I know. So Start the Flow. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, which is already something that not a lot of sorcerers want to do, they are typically nukers. Big, damage-dealing spellcasters that can use meta magic to deal so much more damage. But for this one, you have to hit them with a melee attack. And if you do make them hit, they have to make a Constitution saving throw versus our spell save DC. That's going to be pretty good. And if they fail, they begin to bleed and gain 1 bleeding point. Bleeding creatures take 1d4 necrotic damage at the beginning of their turn for each bleeding point they have. So let's take this as a hypothetical. You hit them twice. They get 2 bleeding points. So they're taking 2d4s worth of necrotic damage at the beginning of each of their turn. And they have to make a DC 15 wisdom or medicine check, which I think it's fair to say if they're against a human creature. Thank you for the follow, Queenie. It's very easy to make that they are not going to pass that. Human characters don't typically put points into medicine, and wisdom is one of those stats that you either are really going to use for your class or you are not going to have it at all. It is a dump skill.
That is true. That is very true.
So, if they have, by the way, at the end of your turn, if you have not cast a spell this turn and inflict a bleeding point on a creature as a result of attack, you may cast a spell that has a casting time of 1 action or 1 bonus action. That is amazing because what you could do is, in theory, melee attack, meta magic, quicken spell, scorching ray, up to level 4, casted with 4 fireballs that hit your opponent. That was as a bonus action. You still have your main action again because, or I guess you used the melee attack, but the fact is that you can quicken your really powerful spells, and then as a bonus action, meta magic for quickened. Now you can cast a cantrip with an action of 1 time again. So basically you get 3 attacks for the price of 1 if you manage to not cast a spell this turn. I love that. That is so amazing that you can deal that much damage with the power of meta magic. And that's just from a level 1 feature. Now let's go on to wet work. When you cast a spell that deals damage to a bleeding creature, you may change the damage type to necrotic. And if you do, as a reaction, so like Hellish Rebuke, you may have each bleeding creature effect make a Constitution saving throw versus the spell's save DC. Basically, spell saving DCs, they're typically on the range of about 16 to 17 around this level, depending on what your intelligence modifier is. And if they fail, they take another 1d4 bleeding necrotic damage. This is amazing. I love this because this is a spell blade that could potentially, all it has to do is hit a couple of times. It doesn't even need to deal a massive amount of damage with the melee weapon, but those bleeds add up. And if you are at level 3, they're basically saying, like, if you cast a spell and you hit them, now they're bleeding with necrotic damage. Or if they're already bleeding, okay, if I'm reading this right, they have to be bleeding already, so you have to hit them with the melee weapon first. Then you can deal the damage to change it to necrotic, which bypasses a lot of resistances. Most chromatic dragons do not have necrotic as a resistance, and necrotic is only really staged by the undead. So against undead enemies, you're not typically going to have a lot of power. But that's a good thing because those bleeding points stack up, and it looks like if they fail the saving throw again, they have to take another bleed stack, which is really good. So I really like that. And so let's move on. And then again, we talked about induced sepsis, which basically forces them to make the rerolls on their con saving throw, which means the bleeding stays on. And if you can burn your meta magic, you might burn your meta magic really quickly, but that's okay because you want to keep those dots on the whole time. So moving on to Essence Drain. As a reaction to the end of turn, the character within 60 feet of you that is bleeding has taken damage. Make them take another Constitution saving throw, and then you can gain temporary hit points for each bleeding on the character. Someone else talk for a second. You cannot see me right now, but my sorcerer boner is like fully erect right now. It's just my wizard staff is my wizard staff. I threw that wizard staff away. I got a sorcerer staff. My sorcerer staff is yes, damn it, yes. Oh, meta magic. Oh. Okay, I'm not. I was gonna do this.
Someone clip that, please.
Okay. Someone else talk. Please, someone else talk for like 15 seconds, or I'm gonna keep gushing.
So what I find fascinating is that this is a very reaction-based sorcerer. Like with Essence Drain, as a reaction at the end of a turn in which a creature within 60 feet of you that is bleeding has taken damage, you can then potentially gain temporary HP for each bleeding point on that creature. And then let's see here. Hemohex, when a bleeding creature fails a saving throw against a 5th level or lower spell you cast, you may spend 1 sorcery point to infuse their vital essence with the spell effects. At the start of the next turn, they suffer the effect. Holy shit!
Oh!
They suffer.
Oh!
They suffer the
yes!
effects of the spell
Yes!
again.
Oh!
Mm.
Sorry, I had to.
So
I had to take the vest off for a second. Oh my god! Oh my god! Thank you. Oh, I love this. I love this so much. You know what that basically means, though, Chitter.
You basically get duplicate spell for basically anything. It's duplicate spell without having the restriction of it being a single target.
And
Holy shit!
And you only need to spend 1 sorcery point. You can get those back on a short rest or with an ability that converts spell slots into sorcery points. This is why I'm by the way, it's 5th level or lower spell. Do you want to know what you can get at 5th level?
Oh no.
Fireball.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. it doesn't have a limit on the creatures that you can
No.
do that. So if you've been causing a shitload to bleed, you could spend those sorcery points and make multiple, and you could do a dual fireball for multiple people.
Yes.
Ooh, I like this one.
Now obviously you got to be careful because they might pass the Constitution saving throw. But let's take worst case scenario. You cast Fireball. They're bleeding. You trigger Hemo Hex. Now they have to make a con saving throw. If what they all got hit in an area of effect. So if they all have bleeding, they all have to make Constitution saving throws. And if they fail, oh wait a minute, here comes another Fireball because Jim couldn't roll high on the Constitution saving throw.
Jim. Poor
Jim.
Yeah, everyone the bandits just all look at Jim like, Jim, you had one job, and then you just see the fireball smacking into them. And this is on top of the other meta magic options you can have, like Quicken, Safety Zone, Twinned, my personal favorite, Range Extender, which lets you increase the range of spells so that they have double their casting range. This is what I love about sorcerers. It's so broken to use the sorcery magic points, but the fact at the end of the day is this is a melee spell casting range. This is a melee sorcerer class that wants to deal damage, not always doing a whole lot of melee damage, but just one use of the melee attack, and you can just like wipe your rapier off, go to the next one, poke them, and then at the end of your turn cast a big spell like Twin Firebolt. Oh, okay, here it is. This is what I just realized. With Hemo Hex, let's just do the argument here, because I'm oh my god, I just thought of this. This is amazing. With Hemo Hex, I'm fighting two like big giants, right? They're both bleeding. They're both bleeding.
Right.
On my turn, you start the flow. I have not cast a spell that turn, so I've just used the attack. As part of my ability, I'm going to use my Metamagic Twin spell to cast 2 Firebolts at them, okay? Which is like a cantrip. I would probably use like maybe Scorching Ray, but let's just use it for simplistic sake. That hits them, okay? That triggers Wet Work because that triggers Wet Work, so we're then going to change it to necrotic damage, so they have to take additional 1d4 bleeding, which then will trigger Hemo Hex, which then re-triggers Wet Work again if they fail the Constitution saving throw because they're getting hit by another spell that is to a bleeding character, which changes into necrotic damage, which means they have to take another d4 of bleeding damage. So you can, in theory, add 1d4 for the initial cast from necrotic damage, the damage from the Firebolt spell, the damage from the damage from the second Firebolt spell because they failed the Constitution saving throw on Hemo Hex. They get another version of that cast for free, and then that will trigger an additional 1d4 necrotic damage for bleeding points. So if you have 3 bleeding points, you're looking at 4d4 plus 1d10 plus 1d10 that triggers an additional 2d4 of necrotic damage. And you know what all that costs you? 3 meta magic points and a cantrip.
I will say this, I did notice something that is an oversight, though.
What's that?
Essence Drain into Induced Sepsis. It can't function.
At the end of the reaction, the end turn, with the creature within 60 feet of you is bleeding and taking damage, you may make a Constitution saving throw of your spell, and on a failure, you gain 1d6.
You can't do Induced Sepsis. How many reactions do you have a turn?
Okay, but Essence Drain, you don't use the Induced Sepsis for that. You use that, you'd use Induced Sepsis on the Hemo Hex. That's the better use of that, because with Hemo Hex...
No. Garson, what I'm saying is that you can't do Induced Sepsis, period. Because it's saying, as a reaction, at the end of a turn in which a creature within 60 feet of you has taken damage, so it is your turn. You have one reaction. You use that reaction. They make the con save. You go, okay, I'm going to do Induced Sepsis and use my reaction. Oh, wait, I've already used it.
Well, no, you haven't actually, because Hemo Hex is where the chain begins. It's not...
Essence Drain.
No, Essence Drain gives you temporary hit points. It doesn't do Hemo... It's not the reaction.
No, look at essence drain.
I am
As a
looking.
react,
Yes, I'm not counting essence drain in my calculations.
but I'm saying that with induced sepsis, it's an oversight to include essence drain into it because you're trying to use two reactions on the same turn.
Okay, okay, that's fair, but I honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I wouldn't have used induced sepsis on Essence Drain. I would have used that strictly for the Hemo Hex, because once you have that, that is going to be that's going to be the main way you're going to deal damage. It's like chaining spells over and over and over again because of that Hemo Hex's ability to basically duplicate your spells for free. I would never use Induced Sepsis on anything else once I got Hemo Hex, because I need that to go off for my chain to work. But I do see what you're saying. But I do see what you're saying about Lesson Straight. It is a bit of an oversight.
Yeah, like I'm not denying that it is a great combo at level 14.
Mhm.
It's just getting to that point. New players may be misled into thinking that they have more reactions than they do when it's an oversight on the book creator's part. They should have removed essence drain from it, or given essence drain to be an action or bonus action. That is a genuine oversight on their part.
Well, we can always DM in and say that that's probably what happened. But let's move on to the capstone ability, which, by the way, I don't even give a shit what the capstone is. I'm already like, just my sorcererness is like, yes, chaining spells. Yeah, chain magic, chaining. Don't like. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I read this. It's okay, but it's basically when it basically manipulate the lifeblood is when a bleeding creature attacks you, you may make a charisma saving throw against your spell, make them have to make a charisma saving throw, and on a failure, against your spell save DC, on a failure, they can't target you with an attack, but they're free to target another ability. That's a great ability. Don't get me wrong, but Hemo Hex is way too better, in my opinion, because if they fail that con saving throw, double your spells. And if it hits them with a big area of effect spell like Cloud of Daggers, Fireball, which are all level 5 spells or lower, that's an even effects cantrips. That is amazing. Like, okay, you can't copy your big spells, but I don't care. Like, Scorching Ray is fantastic at level 4. It's perfect for this.
Yeah, I will say I do like that as a level 18 ability, because level 18 abilities have always been seen as like this extra really cool bonus that you get to have. So I'm not upset by it by any stretch of the imagination that it's something that's just a really cool added bonus to have. Sorcerer level 18s have kind of always been like that.
So, yeah, because Sorceress is just amazing. So we got time for one more. Sorry, guys, I'm viewing the executive order and I'm taking over we're going to cover the last Sorcerer real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so this is
Yep.
the Soulfire Sorcerer. This one is I think we're okay to show this one because it's a guy like this. This is a bit weird, but it's okay. I think this will work. Jitter, can you go over before I start gushing again about everything that the Sorcerer can do with what the kink is?
I love that the sorcerers have the most dangerous form of play. I find that very fitting.
It's
But
meta magic, baby.
But this one is actually a character idea that I've had as well. This is the Soulfire, or the self bondage class. And bondage, again, noticing a theme with the kinks that I have, is removing power and making them vulnerable. Without freedom to move, and you have no power. And the people outside of you have that power that you yield.
God damn it,
And
Chitter. Why do we have the same kinks?
I don't know. And
Why do we have the same shit?
and it's born either restrain themselves due to a lack of a partner, which is incredibly dangerous, or out of a desire for an increased sense of helplessness born from the lack of another person safeguarding the experience. Such an activity is intrinsically extremely dangerous because there is no one to help if something goes wrong. And they even say it. Many have died from this practice, and I cannot understate how careful one must be if they wish to undertake it. If they
Mhm.
do so, preferably work with another person to have a lifeline should something go wrong. Because here's the thing with self bondage. You are completely restrained. And if you can't get out, then how do I put this nicely? You are in so much danger because you can't do anything. So please, I know that bondage is like the capstone of BDSM and whatnot. And self bondage, like, oh, like tying your wrists together or whatnot, or maybe tying your legs together. But if you're new to it, just like with lifting weights, please have someone nearby. You
Mhm.
may want to do it. You may want to do it yourself, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with you tying yourself up. But if you get a knot that's too tight for you, you're going to be thanking that person that they're there to be able to free you and be there for you. And this class deals with bondage being a savior, and you aren't in need of a savior for your bondage. So please, when it comes to real life, just like with blood play, either be safe or pick someone with a lot of experience that will make sure that you're safe, because the frenzy that comes from subspace with these things, it can be lethal. Not just
Mhm.
like not just like, "Oh, I had a really, really bad time and I'm triggered and like triggered in a really, really bad way, or you have that trauma." This can be lethal. This can be fatal. So Garson's gonna talk about the class and whatnot. But the kink itself, please be safe. Please be safe.
And actually, unlike the blood play magic, which obviously it did tie into the kink, but it was more of the dangers of the kink, the Soulfire sorcerer is very much in a similar boat. So let's talk about that and start with this. So, for example, we're going to start with the first ability because it's kind of important. Your existence is one of perpetual bondage, such that the soulfire within you does not get free. So basically, you are the equivalent of a living bomb. And I'm not even kidding about that, because when we get to the meta magic, you'll see what I'm talking about. When you are picking your starting equipment, work with your GM to craft a set of bonds. Basically, sorry about that. Basically, when you make with this particular sorcerer, you have to basically you aren't really allowed to do much in terms of like movement. You actually can travel less. You have telepathy. You're not really able to move. You're not really able to have really a lot of autonomy in your actions. But you have to have that because if you lose these bonds, these self-imposed limitations that are put on you as this sorcerer, you will become a soulfire creature with a challenge rating equal to or less than your sorcerer level. So basically, if you lose that bondage, you will become a threat to your party because it's not telling. I don't know if you can control it.
You can't. It's under GM control.
Okay, then yeah, no, then yeah, that is a risk. You can let yourself get consumed by this fire, but if you do, you are putting your party at risk, and that is a very dangerous situation to be in to give up control of your character to the GM. But it gets
And
but that's with just the beginning of it.
and
Uh,
here's the thing. Here's the thing.
mhm.
You are I know a lot of people go, "Oh, well, I could tame that person." No, the soul fire makes you basically like unreachable and well, unquenchable without those quenching bonds. So, uh if you are not dropped to 0 hit points, you are a danger. And if you hit 0 and those bonds are not on you, you die. No saving throw.
And with that, it actually ties into some of the other stuff that this sorcerer does. So let's take a look at two new meta magics that come with the Soulfire class: Detonating Demise and Consume Spirit. Now, I don't need to explain to you what Detonating Demise is, but I'll briefly go over that. Because, yeah, it makes you into a bomb. A very deadly bomb at low levels, because this is a 3rd level ability. Let me read this to you. When you reach 0 hit points, you may spend 2 sorcery points and any number of creatures of your choosing within 30 feet have to make a Dex saving throw against your spell save. If they fail, they take 4d6 fire damage plus an additional 1d6 fire damage for each point of pain that creature has. So let's do the math here real quick. This is 3rd level. You're probably still fighting around like maybe bugbears, or at worst maybe like some shaman, kind of like, or like not a big bad guy. If your party is good at producing pain, they can potentially put an additional 5 points of pain on a creature around that level, and now you have 9d6 of fire damage for 2 sorcery points. You're dead, obviously, but you're taking somebody out with you, and then the GM now controls your character with the soul fire. That's deadly.
Well, actually, just really quickly,
Mhm.
they don't control your character because you just hit 0 hit points. But this actually, because it's when your bonds are removed is when you become consumed by soulfire. But this is actually leaning into the lethality of self bondage very, very quickly, and I love it because you as a player, sorcerers are known for being, well, one of the frailer classes.
Squishy.
Yeah, squishy.
Very squishy. But this forces you as a class feature early on to put your sorcerer in danger of dying. Because to get the most out of your character, you have to be constantly hitting 0 hit points. So you are basically going to the edge so often, and your character and your healer's going to be fucking pissed
Oh
with you.
yeah, but here's the. I'm gonna let you finish, but like, remember, you're exploding. This is an explosion. You're not gonna. So here's my argument on this as a
Oh.
DM. If you
You're not getting up.
no,
You're not,
no. Let me explain. You're not just not getting up. You don't have a body for the bonds to be on. You're going to summon that soulfire character if you do this in front of me.
I would argue not, because you can choose to just not include yourself. It's on every creature of your choosing. And that's a very important line. Like, that is extremely important. You're not going to choose yourself to blow yourself up.
No, but you have to be at 0 hit points, and then it has to be within 30 feet of you. So
Right, but that's it going out from you. Like your fire is being pushed outward. It's not going inward.
okay, I guess
Right?
that's up to the table to. I mean, that's up to the DM to like see if that's how they would rule that, because it's one of those more ambiguous situations. I think because you are the source of the explosion, yeah, you're going to explode and be outward of 30 feet. That's my take on it.
I personally would find that very difficult to justify, just from the gameplay perspective of, hey, this is something that is uh, a meta magic option that you could take, and that doesn't seem, I hate to say this, it doesn't seem particularly fair to the player to pick an option that they can only use once.
Yeah, that seems like a last minute resort.
Yeah. But if you're choosing that, your character is going towards the edge often. You are playing a character who you recognize is going to be near death more often than they're not. And sure, that has like the gameplay perspective of the healer potentially wanting to grasp you by the throat and make sweet noises with it. But also that kind of leads into a lore and story perspective of your character probably talking with the others, and others being very concerned for you, like, hey, we've noticed that you're putting yourself in these dangerous situations. Is there any way that we can help make sure that you're able to be okay, that you're able to be safe? And that's a lore and story right there. That's a personal story where could eventually choose to either embrace it and make sure that there's someone around you so that you're always safe, or have the capstone of the story be you finally get rid of that meta magic option for something that's safer because you recognize that you can't lose the people around you.
That
And
no, go ahead.
that's something that I find to be a very interesting thing from a story perspective. Like, sure, you're giving them that ability to do that more than once, but also that's setting up a story thing of a thrill seeker with this who knows that they're dangerous, and that sets up potential, like, is it just for the thrill? Do they want to be helpful in their final breaths, and every time that they wake up they're concerned that they're a danger again? Like, it sets up so much story stuff that I'm fascinated by it.
You know, that again, I think that's something that a DM and the player would have to come to. And you're right, because it does allow for a big story moment. This is you basically sacrificing your autonomy to contain a very dangerous form or dangerous power source as a sorcerer, which, for the record, what makes sorcerers different from wizards is sorcerers gain their magic from like an innate magical source. For some, it's like draconic bloodlines give them access to their magic. Some potentially also get their magic from like an exposure to the weave at a young age. But the difference
Or
is
they're
that
just born with it.
that too. But that's usually what happens. They're born with their magic. Wizards have to learn it, but the difference is that wizards are able to learn more magic. Sorcerers gain like a really powerful ability. This
Hey, sorry,
is
y'all. I gotta get going.
okay. No, take
You
care.
all have a wonderful day, okay?
No problem, Neko. Is everything all right?
Oh no, everything's good. I just gotta take them outside. They need to go.
Okay, go do that. We're about done. This is the last one we're talking about for the day. But moving on.
See y'all later.
All right, see you later. So let's move on to the last meta magic ability. When it's Inexorable Inferno, and when you deal fire damage, you can spend a sorcery point to remove any resistance to fire damage that creature has until the start of your next turn. That's pretty good because this is a fire-based sorcerer, so obviously don't want resistances in the way. But it's a bit of a non-starter because you can take Elemental Adept and get the same effect without needing to spend the sorcery point. So
Yeah, it's kind of a give and take. If there's more feats that you want that benefit you more, it's still nice to have in the background.
right, and so let's move on to the next. So yeah, about the bomb, the detonating demise. I, I can see where you're going with that. But and meta magic is not meant to be like the damage. It's meant to enhance your magic. So maybe as someone who's played a lot of sorcerer, I view it a bit differently than someone who, I don't know if you played a lot of sorcerer classes as a player. I mean, have you?
I've played a fair amount of sorcerers, and I've found that meta magic is very helpful, but also people tend to do something that is very interesting and that they've done with this is where they basically make it not only like an enhancement, but they make it like a separate ability, almost like an eldritch invocation, which is fascinating.
Possibly. Very possibly. We could probably spend like a whole episode arguing about that detonating, but we do need to move on to the Inferno morph. So at level 6, yeah. So at level 6, you gain the ability to become the monstrous form of the Soulfire. And you have to, but I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing because you can transform into the shape of a beast, aberration, or monstrosity with challenge rating 1 or lower. So I don't really know if what kind of options you have with that.
Uh, Basically, this is something that I think is very interesting because this is essentially a a sorcerer wild shape with with aberrations. So you get to do something that not even druids get to do. And aberrations, it's CR1 and below. There are some pretty fascinating ones. Let me just take a quick dippy dive into it really quickly. There is obviously the flump,
Well, you had me at
but then
flump. The danger flump.
there's gazers. There's how the fuck do you pronounce that? The it
Iphalid?
no the itch One second, I'm going to pop this to you, Garson, and you tell me how to pronounce this.
All right, let's take a look at this. Pop it in our DMs real quick and I'll take a look at it.
Good luck.
The Ixtalexchitel.
Close enough. And that one is a CR 1/4, which looks like an aberrant manta ray, basically.
Okay.
And then you have the well, this is oddly fitting for this. You have the choker.
Well, that's kind of cool. I do like the fact that the sorcerer is basically becoming like a. And by the way, you get that soulfire additive as well. So imagine, like, for example, a fox form that's now a fire fox, or like a QB. That would be cool, or a flaming bear. That's really cool, actually. Just it allows you to like take a normal creature and then it's also made of fire. It's not
Yeah.
on fire. It's made of fire.
Yeah. This is a class, and this is something that I genuinely believe with this class. So a lot of people know about wild magic, and they always joke about like, oh, it's directly connected to the weave. No, the wild magic is a interpreter for the magic gone wrong. And this basically takes that to its next level where it's not an interpreter gone wrong. This is an interpreter gone right. And that's more dangerous because the cure for it doesn't exist.
Right. And then on top of that, you also get some other benefits, not just the form shift, but the ability scores are replaced with the creature of your choice. You retain your alignment and personality. Okay, so it says essentially you are transforming into it. When you transform, you get the hit dice and the HP points. But what's interesting is you can't die in this form. If you it basically, as the example states, if you take 10 points of damage in the animal form and you only have 1 HP left, you just take the 9 and you go down to 1. So you always have like one way to like at least protect yourself from one fatal attack. And it could be any attack. It doesn't necessarily say it has to drop into negative. It just says you always will maintain 1 HP, which is pretty good for a saving ability as well.
Yeah.
But then you can't cast spells, and you can't speak. You can't take any action that requires the hands because they're limited to contain the Inferno form. It doesn't break your concentration on spells. Anything you've cast already. And you can't take any action that part of the spell is already cast. I don't know what that. So basically, wait. Let me read that again because I don't think I'm reading that right. They've already cast over or prevent you from taking actions that are part of a spell. Okay, so basically, it means that you can't like you can't cast any additional spells. But if there's like something already going on, this won't stop you from doing stuff like calling down a lightning storm that's already been up, which is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it just merges into your new form. And then your equipment just turns into your new form. So you still have the bindings on. They just become part of the form you've taken, which is interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, the more I'm reading this feels, as a big sorcerer fan, this feels like this is more of a druid class. Like, honestly, everything about this screams druid, except for the meta magic. But you could honestly make the argument this is a druid class, because you could say that you contain like, for example, just replace the essence of Soulfire with the essence of an untamed animal or wild nature spirit inside of you. that you're trying to contain, and you don sacramental garbs to contain it. When it eventually it breaks free, but you learn how to control it, and you turn into its true wild nature form. Like, for example, a bear in the form of, like, made out of tree bark would be kind of the same thing. Do you see where I'm going with that?
I like this class specifically for a sorcerer, and there's a reason why, and it has to do with how the horrorling is. This class takes a unique approach where it forces you to think about a class in a unique way, in a way that's unintuitive. And you cannot play this class the same way that you would any other sorcerer.
No, you
have to-
can't.
you have to be careful. You could play it as a damage dope that gets to 0, as I said before, or you could play it where it transforms into those beasts very quickly, those aberrations. But the thing is that with this as it stands, you are very much uh you you are a different kind of sorcerer. You are a sorcerer who is under restrictions and being creative with their magic. Not just in terms of lore, but in terms of how you actually play it. And that's really, I respect the creators for that, because they're basically saying to you, sure, you can play a creative class, but you yourself have to be creative with it then. We're not giving you the same tools.
So let's quickly look at the last two abilities, and then we're gonna call it here for today's episode. Because we are way over. We usually stop at about 2 hours. We've been going for an extra hour on this one. I don't know how we're gonna edit this one, because, like, I think we're gonna have to probably cut this one in half. So the relationship with your affliction. Kindle Skin. This basically says that your relationship with your affliction has begun to be symbiotic rather than parasitic. You are resistant to fire damage, which is awesome. And when you're hit by a melee attack, you may use your reaction and spend 2 sorcery points to cast Hellish Rebuke, basically. But the difference is that unlike Hellish Rebuke that has a set damage amount, this one focuses on using the pain mechanic again, which now that I read this, I don't think this sorcerer has any ways to deal pain. So you have to rely on someone else, which again ties back into the kink, what you were saying. Like, sometimes it's because you need an outside source to make sure that you can experience this, without having it go overboard.
Yeah.
And then the last one is One with Flame. Basically, you gain a full immunity to fire damage. Immunities are so rare, so having one is great. In addition, as an action, you may release your bonds to channel the soul fire in conjunction with your own magic. For the next minute, when you cast a spell that deals fire damage, that spell deals maximum damage. Okay, I can already tell this is fucking a great capstone ability. Maximum damage fireballs! No way this is going to be bad, and that's just the halfway point. What does the rest of this thing do? If that spell was cast at 5th level or lower, you may spend a sorcery point equal to the level of the spell, rather than consuming a spell slot. Oh my god! Oh my god! So essentially, you get you get free additional spell slots, if they're cast at 5th level or lower. Okay, this is good. I like this. I don't know if you want to waste 5 spell slots to get an additional fireball, but 2 fireballs at maximum fire and maximum damage without which, and by potentially not have a resistance to fire. Oh, that's wow. Ooh, okay, that's a good way to capstone this sorcerer.
Yeah, that's basically you going, I have put up with this shit long enough.
Yep. And this is like, all right, that's it, meteor time. Yeah.
And the thing is that is not just like, oh, you get to do that. Look at the reasoning of how you can. You can release your quenching bonds for a minute. You are temporarily free.
And
this is your
yeah.
For that minute, you essentially become a fire god.
we should never show
So,
this to
Gale.
yeah, pretty much without the risk of exploding. Well, no, there's the risk of exploding actually.
I was about to say.
All right. So I think all right. So the sorcerers there I like the hemo one a lot more just because of that hemo hex. Oh my god, hemo hex is so good. I love it. But
I love it.
one with flame is pretty good too. I would say that the sorcerer subclasses they fit the kinks, but they're also the most dangerous out of the kinks, which
Mhm.
as you mentioned before. So I think it's tapping into that raw, untapped magical power that those two would have, and I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah. I respect that because sorcerers are often seen as like, oh, I get to do my magic for free. No, in lore, they're dangerous. Do you want to know something fascinating? Just really quickly about the wild magic sorcerer that will honestly make you think twice about it.
What's that?
In Ravnica, when they're lining up the classes and whatnot for like sorcerer and whatnot, wild magic is Selesnya.
Oh.
And there's a good reasoning for that. It's not because like, oh, they're connected directly to the weave. No, it's because they're so dangerous. They need to be around people who can help keep them safe.
And I think that's a good way to describe the sorcerer in this book. It's dangerous, it's risky, but the payoffs are very powerful if you can perform it, if you can respect it. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, if you can treat it with the respect it deserves and everything that give it everything that it deserves, these are super powerful and you will be loved and adored. If you don't give it the respect it deserves, you will be in trouble. Not hated. Oh, hell no. You won't be hated because you'll be well, either a puddle of blood or a puddle of ash. And
One or the other.
I do say puddle of ash because you'll still be boiling.
Well,
Ugh.
I think that's probably the best way we
That's
can
sad.
wrap up that. Speaking of wrapping up, I think this is this is going to be an extra long episode when we post this on YouTube, but I think we've covered. I think the only thing left is the warlocks at this point. We only got maybe a couple more classes left, and then
And the wizards
oh, that's right, the
Yeah, the
wizards.
wizards,
We
yeah.
forgot the wimpy cousins of the sorcerers, the wizards. I'm sorry. If you,
Oh,
I don't know. I say this, but I say this right now as a sorcerer main. Yes, we are in constant argument with the wizards who has the better magic. It's us.
Yeah.
We know we have it. They just don't want to admit it because they're being a bunch of bitches.
I will say the wizards present very unique kinks that most people wouldn't think about. I
Well-
will say that.
Well, tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna end the video here. I want to say thank you to everyone who joined today. I want to give thank you to our table and DM. I know we had some people who had to leave early. We get that. We understand. If you are watching this, please, for the love of God, like, comment, and sub on our channel. We need to do that because the algorithm will not like us otherwise. And if we don't give the algorithm what it wants, it's gonna basically make it so we can't have a livelihood. We want that livelihood. So once again, we're giving our shout out to the creator of Kinks and Cantrips, T.S. Michael. Somehow we're still going to be doing another episode of this next week, and then maybe after that, maybe we'll be able to go on to another book, because I really do want to go into Obojima, because I'm just like, I'm addicted to that one. It's the Studio Ghibli one. We'll be talking about that after we're done with Kinks and Cantrips. And then after Kinks and Cantrips, I got something special planned. No spoilers yet. Me and Chitter are working on it, but we'll have something really cool planned when we get to that. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you to everyone who joined. You're amazing. Please, once again, like, comment, sub, and check out some other videos. You can check them out here. You can check them out.
And we're doing D&D tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, no. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're not doing it tomorrow. We do it on Sundays. which I think would probably be like, if you are watching this, please join us on Sundays. We'd love to have you there. Watch us enjoy a dumb game. You can watch the videos of the D&D campaign on the channel along with this, and we just want to let you know we appreciate your time and energy. So we'll see you all later. Have a great night. The session's over. And for the love of God, will someone please tell Steve to stop eating Funyuns in the bathroom?
Yeah.
The bathroom smells like Funyun farts.
Funyun.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See ya.